Today, we have a coaching call with Jocelyn. Her main issue is finding clarity in her life and making sure she's spending her time on the things that are most important to her. Welcome to Richer Soul, your journey to a more purposeful, intentional, amazing life. Where are you going to go and how are you going to get there? Let's figure that out together. At the core is the financial well-being to be able to do what you want, when you want, how you want. It's about personal freedom and abundance. At the core is knowing your purpose. And today we're going to talk with Jocelyn and help her find clarity with her purpose. In earlier episodes, I offered a free coaching call to people. That offer is now over. However, I will offer a 50% discount on the initial session to anyone who signs up between now and June 30th. And that would be a private session. Over the next few weeks, you will be able to listen to some of the people who took advantage of that initial offer. Today, it's Jocelyn. Let's meet her. Hello, everyone. Today we have Jocelyn, and we are going to do a coaching call with her. So welcome to Richer Soul, Jocelyn. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Rocky.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Anytime we can help someone and share that knowledge with others, I'm sure there's a lot of other people who are in very similar situations to yours. And if we can share and others can learn, I think that's just awesome and very helpful. So thank you for being willing to share and let others learn from us today. So, Jocelyn, why don't we get started by having you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am 31. I am a single mother. I am living in South Florida. I'm literally like 10, 15 minutes away from the beach, so the cost of living can be high. I work as an accountant, and my income is in the low 400, not 400, I wish, 40,000. And I have auto loan, credit card, and school loans. After filling out some of the forms you asked me for, I realized how much debt I am in and how much I need help.
In realizing that, you did something that most people don't do. You reached out and you asked for help. That in itself is a massive step that puts you so far ahead of people. Most people just ignore it or don't do anything, and little by little, it compounds and gets worse and worse. Taking that first step is it's so massive in putting you back in the correct direction that you need to be going. So congratulations on that. So tell me a little bit, how was it like when you were growing up? What was money like as a child for you?
Actually, I lived with my grandmother for a while. She adopted 9 kids. She was a foster home. So I was used to going to the grocery store every day. She always managed to make do. So in a home with 11 kids, she managed to make it work. And when I was older, I moved back in with my mom, and she was the coupon queen. So she managed to make it work also when it came to grocery shopping and things like that. So growing up, I would definitely say I was I hate to use this term, but I was kind of the hustler. So instead of using my lunch money to buy lunch food that I didn't like, I would take my lunch money, buy candy, and actually sell it at school so that I had more money for myself. And I would just spend it on the things that I like. And I think that is one habit that has stuck with me. Buying things that I like when I want them. And I kind of think that hurts me now.
In what way does that hurt you now?
For instance, okay, if I'm at home, I want to watch TV. Okay, let's get cable. Let's get the high-speed internet. And it's never the flashy things, but just little things that add up to bigger numbers. If I'm out and about and I'm hungry, okay, fast food is the way to go. So most of the money that I spend is on things of convenience. Fast food, faster internet, the higher cell phone plan, just things that really don't add value. to my life or help me out financially, but it's just always the little things that I wind up spending the most money on.
And it does add up. And I think it's that little bit of lifestyle creep that we all face. And that's why it doesn't matter how much you make, because even if you make more, we tend to want more conveniences, and those conveniences become more and more expensive. And so even as we increase our income, our spending keeps up as well, and we seem to never get ahead. And so
Yeah.
recognizing that, understanding that, and creating a little bit more space between your spending and your income helps to change that. Now, you said something else, though, that was interesting before. In the past, you would hustle to make extra money so you could have the things you want. How is that going currently?
Well, I am a single mother. So one of the things that I have been terrified of since I became a mother was working a second job. Daycare here, so when my son was younger, daycare was almost $150 a week. So I know that daycare can be pricey. So getting a second job and needing a babysitter or a daycare service even longer than necessary made me wonder, okay, is it worth getting a second job if I'm going to have to pay egregious daycare prices? So time away from home more than necessary. How much am I going to pay for a babysitter, and how is that cost effective in the long run? So one of the things that I'm trying to get into is the remote working from home for a second job. And also I've been looking into Upwork, where I can also do jobs here and there and not necessarily be worried about time constraints or being away from the home.
Okay. And that's an excellent way to be able to have extra income to pay for the conveniences you want. And to kind of change the way you look at it is to say, I would like, and this is what I hear people do, say, I would like to have faster internet. How can I pay for faster internet? And then figuring out a way, since you know how to hustle to make the money to pay for the faster internet. So if you tie the two together, you're not limiting yourself. You're not saying I can't have. What you're asking yourself is, how can I have? And making sure that you do something that allows you to have it without going further into a deficit spending type of pattern. I'm always amazed that more people don't think about doing babysitting to earn money, because there's probably another mother out there like you who would be willing to pay to watch their kid. And if you have the flexibility of doing it, it's one way to still be with your kid and also earn a little extra money.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
It sounds like you've always figured out how to get by. You've always figured out how to earn money and how to pay your bills. But you are looking for more at this point, correct?
Yes, I'm looking to how do I manage my financial situation with the current income that I have, and what can I do to improve it?
Okay. Very good. So we'll get into that a little bit more. What other skills do you think you have? So if I went to your friends and said, tell me what Jocelyn is great at, what are they going to tell me that you are great at?
Believe it or not, they're definitely going to say using administrative skills to create custom documents, databases, and things of that sort, which is actually something that I'm working on now. That's something I'm trying to straighten up on, is just, and I've managed to grab like 2 or 3 clients here or there where you have small businesses where they don't have the time to dedicate toward administrative services, nor do they have the steady income yet to hire someone full time. So here and there, they may come to me for certain things like, oh, hey, I need to put together a spreadsheet that'll automate, just basically automation of these documents to where it'll automatically pull in the information that they need. It'll automatically highlight. So administrative services, creating custom documents and automating a lot of things.
And you're already creating a business around that.
Yes.
And how is that going?
Oh, it's going nowhere fast, Rocky.
So
um,
go ahead, explain that.
okay, so one of the things that I definitely want to make sure of is whenever someone tells you that they have a business or a service, you're going to look them up, you're going to Google them, you're going to make sure everything is on the up and up. So one of the things that I'm working on is making sure that my business is registered, making sure I have an EIN, making sure I have a separate account, because I want to account for that. If I'm going to get paid from actual businesses with the physical check, that money needs to be accounted for. So paying for the registration fees and everything else, I'm kind of dragging my feet on that. And I'm not necessarily diving into it, even though the fees are not that expensive. Pretty much all of my check is gone towards bills. So at the next day after I get paid, I don't have money laying around to pay for the registration fees and things of that sort. So,
Do you already have an EIN number?
yes.
Okay. If you have an EIN number and you open a bank account, that's all you need to get started. Don't worry about the rest of the details.
Wait. So you mean to tell me I don't have to have my business registered just yet to the articles of incorporation to open the bank account?
The EIN number is in what name? In your name or in a business name?
The business name.
Honestly, you probably can. So you want to incorporate. We're getting into legal questions, which
Yes.
it's okay. Here's the thing. If you just want to be Jocelyn and say, I'm Jocelyn, this is what I do, just pay me as Jocelyn, and you set up your own business account as Jocelyn, you can do that.
Oh, okay.
And this way, all of the things that are holding you back are no longer holding you back.
Gotcha.
You can focus right now on building a business, because we don't know that this business is going to be successful, right? Or how successful or when. And so if we focus on that right now, once you start to have enough revenue that it becomes a concern, at that point, you can worry about all that stuff. And you'll have the money at that point to do it. So let's remove the barrier and just go forward.
Gotcha.
Do you have clients who paid you in the past?
Yes.
All right. How do you determine how much to charge them?
Honestly, it depends on how much time it's going to take me to come up with it. And also, is it like, if it's just like a temporary fix, it's not that much. But if it's something, a tool that can be implemented and used over years and years and years, it's definitely going to be worth a lot more. Absolutely going to put more time into it. So depending on the intricacies of it and how difficult it might be for me to create it, how much time I'm spending, and how useful of a tool it will be to the client, that kind of determines the price. So I'll give you a prime example. I actually created a database for a small doctor's office. And it was just like 2,500. And this was over the summer. So it was 2,500. I was just pulling the number out of the air and seeing what they'll go for. He absolutely loved it, to the point where he referred me to two of his brothers that had other doctor's offices where I did the same thing.
And how much time does it take you to create that database? And how quickly can you replicate it?
It took one of the first brother that I did it for, it took me, I would say, about 4 days. And being that I had already created it, to duplicate it took less than 24 hours.
All right. So you have something of value. It's duplicatable and replicatable. At this point, you just got to go find other doctor's offices, and you can start minting $2,500 at each clip of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm hearing something. What am I hearing?
You're hearing nerves, Rocky. You're hearing nerves. And to be honest, what drove me to do it in the first place was not, okay, let's go out and try it. It's okay, I need to do it. Because I was actually in a position where I was looking to move to another state, which was Georgia. So I decided, okay, I'm not happy at this job. This is where I want to be. Why not go for it? And in going for it, I also told myself, why not go for doing something on your own? And I went for it. And my last client actually is where I am currently working for as a regular employee. I went for it out of necessity. It was something that I had to do. And now that I am working, I guess I'm back in that comfort zone to where I don't have to do it. And it's more of a choice. And that's where the nerves kick in. Like if I had to do it, no questions, I will go for it. But when it's a choice, I'm more nervous about it.
So I'm a little confused. What causes you to be nervous?
Just going for it, going out there, doing it, and failing. I guess failure is a bigger fear. It's the fear of the unknown. I know I shouldn't be afraid of it. I should just go ahead and go for it. The worst that can happen is someone will say no, they're not satisfied, and ask for a refund, and I can gladly give them that. It's just that fear. I'm spending, a lot of time at work already. And like I said, having to take time away from my son already is kind of like it's something that I will definitely drag my feet on, but I know it's something that I have to just get up and do it. And it's just a matter of getting up and doing it.
And that's what separates success from failure, is doing it. So by not doing it, you've already accepted failure.
Yeah. Yes, you're right.
And as you said, I talk about leaping with a parachute, which basically means if I'm going to jump and do something, I want to jump and do something that I can't get hurt if I fail at it. At this point, you have a proven product. You know people will pay for it. You know they will pay $2,500 for it. You know it's easily replicatable. And so help me out. What's the worst failure you could have? Somebody buys it and asks for their money back?
Yeah.
Are there any other, what else could possibly happen?
Like I said, I'm thinking of someone not liking it, wanting their money back.
Okay.
Another fear that I kind of have, and it's strictly in my head, is that I spend so much time on something, putting so much effort into something, and then it being rejected. It's like a rejection of my ability. And
Okay.
that's kind of...
So let's dig into this. If someone rejects your software solution,
Mm-hmm.
they are rejecting your software solution. They're not rejecting you personally. Those are two different things. Your software solution doesn't meet their needs, which is okay. Your software solution isn't going to meet everyone's needs.
Mm-hmm.
So when they reject that, they're just saying, this doesn't work for me. They're not rejecting Jocelyn, the person.
Okay.
They're not rejecting your work. This is business. Can this help me move my business further? Do I need a database to do this in my office? If the answer is yes, does Jocelyn have the best product for me at a reasonable price? Yes or no? It's just business.
Okay.
Does that resonate or does it not resonate?
It does. It does. And I hear you. Just knowing myself applying that is the hardest thing to do, but it definitely does resonate.
And that is something that we talk about. The biggest obstacle for our success is that reflection in the mirror, ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to work to overcome ourselves. I'm just as guilty as you are.
Okay.
This is, and I just want you to understand, this is not a Jocelyn issue. Every single person who's going to listen to this podcast has the same issue. We all do. It's a human nature issue. It's just the way we are. And that kind of helps to separate, to realize we're not alone in this issue and in this journey.
You know what? I actually have a question for you.
Okay.
So again, when we're working the typical 9 to 5 or whatever the hours might be, we're putting a lot of effort into another person's company, helping that company grow. by the time that we get home, we're too tired to do anything for ourselves or, and I realize that about myself. When I'm helping someone else, I will go the extra mile. I will put in the time necessary. But when it comes to propelling myself and doing things for myself, I find myself so drained that all I want to do is just try to relax or whatever the case might be. And I find myself not necessarily having the time. So my question is, what can people do to what tips do you have on people motivating themselves to do for themselves after they're done working 8, 9, 10 hours for someone else? And that has to come home to a kid and take care of the house. What tips or what advice would you have for that?
First and foremost, it's difficult. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It's difficult and it's hard. And that's the reality of it. I think a couple things to do, and you've got to figure out, this is just general advice because you have to figure out for you what works for you. And that might just be your first step, figuring out how to create space that you have a few hours every week to devote to yourself and whatever business you want to do on your own. And so that might just be scheduling time. So scheduling time on the weekend, realizing during the week, I don't have time to do this. I can't do more than 15 minutes on a daily basis. And that's all I'm going to do. So working out with yourself to say, every day I'm going to spend 15 minutes on this and that's it. And then on the weekend, I'm going to create a 2-hour block or a 4-hour block or whatever block it is that you need to do. You may also say for you at this point in your life, as much as you want to do this, you just don't have the time to do it. And so you're just going to work on it in very, very small chunks and be comfortable with that with yourself to say, when my son is a little older and he's more on his own, I will have the time at that point to push this forward. But that's only a choice that you can make. You can't judge it on how someone else does it. You've got to do it on how you do it. Now, one of the things they say is if you get the hardest thing done first, everything else is downhill. So for some people, that might mean they get up at 5:30 and they spend 1 hour on their business in the morning when they're fresh and ready, and then they go to work. So that when they're tired, it's at the end of their work day, but they've already accomplished their 1 hour on their business first thing in the morning. People who create massive success spend a lot of time working. They have, I mean, it's one of the, you have to balance it. And it's one of the things you may have to give up is some of your time, but you have to make those choices for yourself. How much time do I want to be with my son? And is that the most important thing? And if it is, then be comfortable with that. There's nothing wrong with you saying, I want to be with my son. That's a wonderful thing to say. Be happy with it, own it, and don't look back. But that's a choice you have to make.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that I have been doing that has worked, like you said, is just getting up early in the morning and dedicating time prior to going to work. That way I'm not too tired afterwards. I know that there are a lot of factors that aren't financial that will always play a part. Time is one of them, but stress. So one of the things that have worked for me is, and it's kind of, I don't want to say it's counterintuitive, but work generates the income for me. It also increases stress. So I don't want to spend so much time working extra hours at my typical 9 to 5, bringing it home, stressing myself out. So one of the things that I've decided to do is just to do as much as I can while I'm at work, so I don't bring the 9 to 5 home. That way I can focus on myself and my home a little bit more. So actually stepping away from doing that much more work working the overtime hours definitely helped me out with stress, reduce stress levels. So I'm able to breathe a little easier and not be so worried about things. That has worked, but and in the midst of trying to distress, sometimes I would try to treat myself or whatever the case might be. And again, that does not help the financial side of it. So I know taking time out, scheduling time. And I remember listening to one of your other podcasts where you spoke about just taking time out to breathe in the morning and relax. Is there anything else that you would recommend? Because right now like I said before, I would go to bed at maybe 12:30 planning. So getting up an hour early before work sometimes doesn't work out.
You're going to have to go to bed earlier if you want to wake up earlier.
Yes, I know.
And that's just a shift in time.
Okay.
So the question is what can you do to, first of all, are you comfortable and is your employer comfortable with you not doing overtime?
Yes.
All right. So now you know you're going to come home at a certain time every day.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening between the time you come home at midnight?
By the time I come home, I'm cooking dinner, cleaning the house, helping my son with his homework. And by the time he goes to bed at 9, I'm finally starting to take time for myself. So I'm a little drained. So I'll try to relax. So the time that I could be spending on, working on my own business, doing my own thing, I'm spending a lot of time relaxing and just trying to forget everything, just trying to relax. By the time I do look up or do anything, it's late.
So what would be, give me some examples of things you are doing to relax.
Just take a bath, watch TV for about an hour or two. I have the plans of going online, checking emails and doing things. And of course, you always get sidetracked with the internet and just social media. So the craziest thing is I'll just read it. I'm not posting. I'm not doing it. I'm just reading. And by the time I look up, it's late. And that's something that I definitely have to work on.
So I understand the shutdown routine. I get it. Even for me, I need a long shutdown routine in the evening after I'm done with everything else. You've got to sit down and figure out what's the best shutdown routine for you that works the best. So it might be saying, and literally setting a timer. I'm going to set a timer and I'm just going to look at my emails for 15 minutes to handle whatever email I need to handle personally. And I'm just saying 15 minutes. You've got to figure out what's that time for you. After I'm done with my emails and my timer goes off, I'm going to go take a bath for half an hour. That's a perfect way, if that works for you, to shut yourself down. After your bath, here's where it comes in. When you look at the habits of people who are successful and rich versus the habits who are people who are poor, one of the main differentiators is the amount of time spent watching TV. If you can get rid of that habit and replace it with something else that allows you to shut down and shut down in a shorter period of time and say, I'm going to do something for half an hour that allows me to shut down. And at 10:30, I'm going to hard stop and go to bed.
Okay.
Because if you hard stop at 10:30 and go to bed, you have the ability to pick up an hour in the morning where you're fresh, ready, and you can go be highly focused on what you need to focus on.
Okay.
And it's in the morning is when, for most people, I mean, some people aren't morning people, but generally, if you can crush the most important thing you need to do in the day first, then everything else becomes downhill and your day becomes easier. Because what happens is if you're spending your whole day thinking about, I need to work on my business at 9:30 tonight, your entire day is filled with stress worrying about 9:30 tonight. But if you figure out what you need to do today and you get it done by 6:30 in the morning, you're not worried about it for the rest of the day. You've just cleared all that stress off of yourself.
I like that.
Because at the end of the day, all you have to do then is shut down, and that's not stressful. So while we're on this, I want to talk about, because I think most people are running their life at 100%. And then things come along and there's no space to be able to do anything else because we're already running at 100%, doing a million things. If we can figure out how to run our life at 80%, and it sounds like you've done some of that by removing overtime, stepping away from the job. If we run our life at 80%, that leaves us a 20% margin to do the things we want to do and focus on. And if you look at what they talk about with the 80-20 principle, 20% of the time can produce 80% of your results. So if you can run your life at 80%, eliminate stuff that's not taking you forward, you then have that extra 20% of life to be hyper-focused to bring you massive results. And when I look at this and I say, I think you said you made in the low 40s, if you sell one piece of software a month, that's $25,000 a year. Right now it's $30,000 a year. And that's a dramatic increase in your income.
I kid you not, I never even looked that far ahead. I promise you. Wow.
And that's the question. So how hard is it to get one sale a month? That's a thinking thing. And that's something that you can also automate. That's something where you send out emails to people. You already have 3 successful clients. Who else do they know who could use it? And if each of them can give you one more client, and each of those clients can give you one more client, it's going to be slow, steady, but you have the entire United States to market to.
Yeah.
So
right.
All you need is one sale a month and your whole life is somewhat changed.
Wow. Wow. Wow, you're absolutely right. Stepping stones.
Let's shift gears slightly. I'm going to ask you a question, and let's see where this takes us.
Okay.
If we sat down 3 years from now, what has to happen for you personally, professionally, and financially for you to be satisfied with the progress of these 3 years?
Personally, professionally, and financially. Personally, I would definitely have to oh, tough questions, Rocky. Personally, I would definitely have to get myself and my thoughts together. I find myself thinking about so much all at once that nothing is clear. I would definitely have to be able to process my thoughts a lot better. Personally, I would definitely say I would need a confidant, a friend, because you can't work everything out yourself. You have to have that sounding board. So I think for me, I would definitely need to have that person that I can bounce things off of, that sounding board, to get feedback. Because if I play it all out in my head, it's not going to do anything. I have to be able to communicate that with someone and have that support, have that sounding board to give me realistic feedback. Professionally, I definitely have to get myself out there to do better. In order for me to do better with my own business, I have to take that leap. I have to go forward and move forward with that. Financially, I need to make better financial decisions, cutting back, spending money on the things that I need first and foremost. The things that I love. And what I mean by the things that I love, I mean things that actually add value to my life. Like if I enjoy spending time with my family or traveling to see family, that's something that I need to focus on first and foremost, not necessarily the things of convenience. So yes, personally, having someone to talk to, that confidant, someone to be that sounding board. Professionally, get myself out there to build my own brand, as well as making sure that the people that I encounter in my day-to-day activities on the 9 to 5 are aware of my skills. And if they come to me for advice or whatever, it's just nothing more than another referral. And find a way to turn everyday activities into money. Just like you said, if I do it once a month, that's an extra 30,000. And that's something that I never really looked at. I just looked at it as from the standpoint of, okay, do I really want to do it today? Do I really want to do it right now at this moment, and not being motivated enough to do just one a month? So, confidant, getting myself out there and making better financial decisions, not spending money foolishly.
Do you have someone that you already know and have a relationship with that could be a confidant for you?
Not on a consistent basis, no. I do have friends and stuff that are very, very supportive. But, for me, that I think one of my biggest flaws is not wanting to burden other people. So for friends and things that are really, really good friends, I know that they have their own families and things like that. I don't want to bother people. And that's one of my biggest hurdles to get over, is thinking that I'm going to constantly bother people. So the friends that I do have, I don't reach out to them on a regular basis because I don't want to burden them. I don't want to keep bothering them with the same things, So I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to tap into their time with their families, their time to relax and things like that. So I don't go to friends as often as I could.
And sometimes we might think we're burdening them, and sometimes they might actually enjoy helping. But that's not a decision you should make. That's a decision you should let them make.
Yeah.
You're also involved in a group.
Yes.
Are there people in that group you could connect with and maybe put together a group of 3 or 4 people who are doing something similar and saying, every month we're going to touch base, and every week we're going to tell each other what we're going to do, and maybe once a month each person will cover their particular thing and everyone gives feedback. So you're helping each other go through this journey together.
Yes. So I do have an accountability partner, and that definitely has helped. That has tremendously helped. And believe it or not, she is definitely a pusher. She will definitely say, "Hey, what are you doing with this? What are you doing that? Where are you? Like, how far have you gotten?" And one of the things that we do when we do put together little ideas, we'll email it to each other and say, "Hey, give me your feedback," so on and so forth. Granted, she's in another state. She's more, we have different lifestyles. So it's not always as consistent. But being a part of that group definitely does help. And it is on the social media platform. And that's kind of how I get suckered away from what I'm supposed to be doing.
By the way, so just so you know, Facebook has actually a groups app. And you can get the groups app on your phone. And then instead of going into Facebook, you go into the group app and it just takes you to that group.
I did not know.
And you stay in the group. It prevents us from doing that because we all do that. That's just life. So the more barriers we can put around us to prevent ourselves from being the people we are, the better off we are.
Okay.
So it sounds like you've got a couple people. Most successful people surround themselves with a lot of people. Are there others that you can think of that you can reach out to?
There are definitely some others that I can think of reaching out to. In fact, a friend of mine, she introduced me to the idea of the local municipalities here, like the different little towns and cities. They have their own chamber of commerce, and each one, maybe once or twice a month, they all have like a networking event to where you have people with small businesses that come out, just meet, greet, whatever, and exchange information. So I've gone out to maybe a few, not a lot, because, I don't have the extra time to do these events with my son. So I've maybe gone to maybe 3 within the past 6 months. And I always get positive feedback. But being able to participate in those things on a consistent basis is a little hard to do. But the only alternative that I have to going out to do these events would be finding a group. And the Facebook group that I am a part of kind of substitutes for that.
And that's fine. For everyone, you've got to find what works for you and what fits in with your time, because we're balancing all these things, and you seem to be very good about understanding how to balance your time and your focus there. It may take you a year to put this together. Everyone thinks that things just happen overnight. They don't. Your journey for the next year may be to put together a group of people that can help you continue to go down that path.
Yeah.
And there are lots of people who are willing to help out. Successful people are always looking for successful people because they help each other create more success.
So kind of create a group for me, not necessarily create a whole group for other people.
Correct.
But what works for me.
A group for you. Find people who can help you and create that group. Now, I'm going to tell you something. You still have a couple of years. Your son is 9. I would say in about 3 years, your son's going to be at an age where he can actually help you create success. So at 12, you can start doing things together. He can start getting on the internet, helping you find contacts to email. He can be more involved in your business in a positive way.
Believe it or not, the time when I do find time to work on my own business at home, and like I said, I don't want to take time away from my son, and I want him to have the habit at an early age of knowing what it is like to work for yourself, to put effort into something. So one of the things that I actually do when I do work from home and my son is home, I actually had my son fill out a job application for me. So I tell him, okay, you work for me. I'll pay you minimum wage for when you do help me. So I actually have him doing the easy stuff. Here's some notes. Can you type this up for me? That way it gives him computer skills. That way it gets him familiar with the things that he's going to use later on. So I try to include him already with just the simple things, how to put together a presentation, how to put together a binder, simple things like that. So I try to include him now as it is.
Excellent. You're doing all the right things. You definitely are. And as he gets a little older, he will be able to do a lot more than you can imagine for you. So that will help you with your time and with getting things done together.
Wow. You know what? It's more so, again, when you're doing so much on your own, all you have to go on is just your own thoughts. But it's definitely helpful to hear feedback from somebody else on that. It definitely helps. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're doing really well. I just want you to know that. Like when we're talking about ideas, you're already doing a lot of these things. These aren't new concepts to you. You've got it down. It just sounds like you need to keep continuing. And over time, you're going the right direction and the right path. Little wins turn into bigger wins. And before you know it, things are super successful.
This is one question that I'm dying to ask. And I know a lot of listeners may have this question too, especially those who are single mothers with children and trying to do things. I'm not married and I am no longer with, my significant other because the issue came up where I was doing so much overtime, bringing the work home. And even when the little things did pop up, like, okay, if I have to take care of this emergency popped up and not having enough to cover it, me and my significant other would have those conversations where, okay, you're spending so much time on this job, you're stressing out. Why? Leave it alone. Stop. And I couldn't because I'm constantly thinking of, okay, here's work. I have to do this. I have to get this done. It's extra money. But I had to ask myself, was it worth it? is the overtime and the extra money worth, is it worth crossing your threshold and losing time with your family? And what advice do you have for people who are facing that? Like the decision between working the extra hours, bringing in a little extra income versus taking the time. Like, what advice do you have for listeners as well?
So what you're basically talking about is trading time for money. You're trading your time to have more money. And that's a personal choice. But what I'm hearing from you that's come through this entire time is you value your time with your family more than you value that money.
Absolutely.
Then that's your answer. You know that. And congratulations, because most people don't do that. They don't value the time. They don't realize the bigger impact that they're having on their lives by not saying no to more money to be able to enjoy their life in the moment and spend time with their kid. Now, at the same point, the question you have to ask yourself is, can I create a system that allows me to have more money for the time I'm spending? And it sounds like you're already doing that with this business. You figured out a way to create a lot more money for very little time.
Yes.
So what you're doing is that's what you should focus on. How do I create more money for the time I spend? How do I make that a much larger gap? Now, in order to do that, you're going to have to take a period of time to say, I'm going to have to shift and I'm going to have to put more time into this in order to have more time at the end.
Yeah.
Was that clear, or does it resonate?
Yes, it makes perfect sense.
So what's the struggle?
Doing it. And it's easy. It's kind of easier it's safer. It's safer to get a job working for someone else. I guess it's more comfortable. It's more of a safety net. Here I am working for someone else. Just go, show up, and the work is there. It's guaranteed. Whereas
it's not. You could be let go tomorrow.
Exactly. But what I mean is the work.
Yes.
The work is there. So if I go to work tomorrow, there's work that needs to be done.
Correct.
Whereas if I'm working for myself, I have to go out and find work. And I guess that's where it's more comfortable. Okay, if I know that someone somewhere needs work to be done, and I guess someone is always hiring for whatever reason.
Yes.
For me, it's more of a safety net. Okay, I can always go and apply for a job. I can always go and do this. I can always go and do that. What are my chances of being hired to work for someone else versus me going out and seeing if someone needs my services? What's the likelihood of me getting hired by someone else versus me obtaining work from someone, meaning like having someone pay me for a service and not necessarily being an employee? That's more so what I'm looking at. And I think that's the safety of it. I know that I can always go and apply for a job. And if they say no, they say no, but there's more opportunities to get hired for a job, whereas it may not be as much opportunity for me to go and knock on a door and say, hey, do you need my services? It's kind of like cold calling in a sense.
It is. So you work in a business now. How many times throughout the day or throughout the course of a week do you, in the business that you work in, hire out other services?
A lot. You're right. We have a lot of vendors.
Okay. Do you have more vendors than you have employees?
Absolutely.
Then there's your answer.
Wow. Rocky, thank you for thank you. Just thank you for opening my eyes to something that I see every day. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's what the power of coaching and these calls is all to be about. We all look at our situation and we look at it through our lens. We look at it one way and that's all we see. The reality is there's a million ways to look at something. And if you can just change your perspective on how you're looking at something, everything opens up.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I never ever thought about it. And we change vendors not as often, but we do change vendors. And believe it or not, we always call people back. It may not be for, year-round services, but when we need them, we definitely call them when we need them. Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome. Once you have a relationship with a vendor, then if that vendor's smart, they say, hey, we helped you solve this issue. While I was here, I noticed these 3 other issues. Can I help you solve that too?
Believe it or not, that's how I landed my position that I'm in now. I was contracted to do one little thing, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. This is wrong. That's wrong. This needs to be fixed. You want a job full time? Sure. And that's how I landed my position. Yes.
And so if at that moment, had you said no, had you said, I don't want a job, however, I will fix all these things. Let me put together pricing for all these different things you need fixed.
You know what? I was looking at it as I can, do these things as a vendor, price it out, or I can join on board and have a continuous flow of work. That's, to be honest, that's how I was looking at it. And in hindsight, I do believe I would have been better off pricing it out as opposed to taking the job as a regular employee. But as a regular employee, I can definitely say it's sharpened my skills so much. I'm learning so much more. I think you can always learn something from every task that you're doing. And I definitely can say I am learning and growing. But I definitely wish I would have priced it out as a vendor.
As long as you're learning and growing, that's awesome. And you're going the right direction. I think everyone looks to hit home runs. But the reality is if we can just every day take one little step forward, do one little thing right, over a lifetime, it adds up to massive success. But it's just doing it a little bit at a time. And it sounds like you're doing that.
Man, one of the things that I often hear is to every paycheck, pay yourself.
Absolutely. I pay myself first. I'm at the front of the line. Well, who are you going to pay me first? No.
No. And you know what? And I realized that's something that I have not been doing. Like, okay, I'll try to save $50 every paycheck. And keyword is try. First things first, I need a place to live. Here's rent. Okay, I need to pay for the car note, insurance. I got to eat. By the time I look up, I'm tapping into that $50 that I planned on saving.
Correct. So here's what happens. No matter how much you make, all right, you're going to spend it. So you're sitting here making in the low 40s and you're spending in the low 40s. A lot of my listeners are making $120,000 a year and they're spending $120,000 a year. And then I've got people who are making $120,000 a year living like you are.
Wow.
All right. Those are the people who have 6-7-figure nest eggs. Those are the people who can say, you know what, I'm going to quit my job and do this business. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go spend time with my kid. I'm going to whatever they want to do. The only way to do that is to put some of your money aside to pay yourself first. And if you realize it, there's a couple of people who get paid first before you, and that's called the government. Before they even give you that check, they've already taken out all kinds of taxes. They do that because when they first started taxing people, at the end of the year, no one had the money to pay the government. So they said, you're going to pay us first. And so they take it out of your paycheck before you see it. If you do the same thing, if you take money out of your paycheck first before you see it, it's gone. You just live on that number that comes in at the end. So the question comes, how do we do this? I'm already living at, I'm making this and I'm spending this. Now what? How do I get out of this routine? Baby steps. Couple different ways to do it. One, every time you get a raise, pay yourself first the raise, or at least most of the raise. So if you're making, in this case, let's say you're making $40,000 a year, if I get an 8% raise next year, I just save the 8%. So now you're saving 8% a year. If I do that for 5 years, 8 times 5 is 40. I'm now saving 40%. It's going to take time to build up. Start the process. Get money out of your paycheck or out of your bank account before you see it.
Gotcha.
Start small. If it's $25, it's $25. If it's $50, it's $50. But then when you get raises, when you get bonuses, when you pay off a loan, so you've got an auto loan, right? How much longer on your auto loan? Do you know?
Seems like a lifetime, Rocky. I think I have 4 more years.
All right. So at the end of 4 years, when you're done with that payment, just add it to your savings pile. Keep your car for 4 more.
And I will keep it until the wheels fall off.
Well, and that's why. So if you keep making these little changes and you keep adding, before you know it, you will have a massive savings rate. And you will not have ever missed it.
I like that. So speaking of a raise and knowing your value, valuing time and knowing your worth. So I recently asked for a raise. I haven't heard any feedback yet. But one of the things that I want to do with that is, again, reduce as much as I can so I can reduce my spending, but use the additional income from that raise to save more and put a little here and there towards my own business. What advice would you have for how to go about following up on that raise? Because I haven't had a response yet. So what advice would you have about following up with it?
All right. So the first question is when you went in to ask for the raise, how did that whole process work?
Well, of course, I have an offer letter and it spells out my duties. We were overlapping in the office, and that was one of the things that I noted when I came in. I'm like, wait a minute, we're overlapping here. Who's doing what? And we clarified that. There has been some turnover, and I've been doing a lot more, even more than what I was hired to do, and even more than after we clarified who's doing what. So I spelled that out. I said, okay, well, here's what I'm supposed to do. Here's what I'm actually doing. And I looked at the company in Glassdoor and I presented them with numbers from within the company. So it wasn't just like I'm pulling a random number out of the air. I actually backed it up with data from the company, from actual employees that are also in my position, with the same position in different locations. So I asked for an additional raise. It's only going to be like a few more $1,000s a year, but it's something. So we talked about it, and basically it came down to, because even though as an accountant, my degree is in sociology. And the response that I got was, okay, well, most people in this position have degrees in it. Therefore, they're making a little bit more than you are, even though they're doing less work. So that's why I pulled out the numbers and here's what I'm doing, so on and so forth. And we spoke about it. It ended on good terms, but I have not heard a response back. So
how long has it been?
a week.
All right. So it's relatively quick. Depending on the size of your corporation, how quickly can they usually get back to you, and how much flexibility do they have in the ability to make decisions at the local level?
Well, that's a good question, because I actually did not ask at a local level. I asked our regional manager, and he's the regional manager over the entire southeast of the United States. So
Okay.
generally, I would say no more than a week or two. I've seen raises done quickly, faster than that. So, and I understand that they are busy. You have the entire southeast to run. So I was just curious, like, what advice do you have on how to follow that?
So at some point you do need to follow up. Is there a point in time where you've got a time where you're going to see this person again?
Yes, and that's like a few months down the road.
So that's clearly a large amount of time. Is that who you directly report to, or do you report to someone else?
I have my boss, and then this is my boss's boss.
Okay.
But he's always available, via email or by phone. He's always made himself available.
And the reason you didn't go to you went to your boss's boss for the raise versus your boss, is he involved in the process?
Actually, I did go to my boss, and my boss suggested that I wait until his boss was there so we all can have that discussion in person together. Because my boss cannot make that determination. His boss does. He can't make that decision.
And does your boss have routine communication with his boss?
Yes.
The first step might just be to go to your boss and say, hey, have you heard anything with regards to our conversation?
Okay.
Give it a week. Okay. After 2 weeks, send a nice email that says, hey, we had this conversation. Here were some of the reasons that I talked to you about. I'm just checking in I know you're busy. I'm checking in to see where we are in the process.
Gotcha.
So kind, persistence, and continuing down that path.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Rocky, you pretty much hit a lot of things. You hit on a lot of things that I definitely needed to talk about. So one of the things that, even though I'm making in the low 40s, I did the math on like benefits. My company does offer benefits and everything like that, and I notice it's very, very high. It's extremely high. The premium is high and the deductible is high. So I chose to not get the medical insurance through my employer and just pay for it out of pocket, which definitely is easier. I heard a sigh. What's that, right?
Well, no, it's a sigh. You're going to be penalized tax-wise at tax time. You know that.
Oh, no. I purchased it outside of my employer.
Oh, you bought health insurance on your own.
Yes, I decided to purchase it outside of my employer because it was just extremely too much. So that's one of the things. I recently did that as well. So thankfully I was able to. But how can we negotiate benefits with an employer? Because I know sometimes that is factored into the salary or your wages that you're paid is the cost of benefits that the employer provides. How can someone negotiate that for a new job?
For a new job or for an existing job?
Both.
So here's the thing. Generally, most companies have a defined benefit package. So we offer health insurance. I don't usually see companies saying we offer health insurance and you're going to pay this much and this person's paying this much and that person's paying that much. Everyone generally, what I have seen, pays the same amount. I'm assuming everyone in your company is paying the same amount for health insurance that you would. Is that the case?
Yes. Yes, but I mean your wages. So let's say because most of the time they don't necessarily give you the details of how much the medical, okay, we offer benefits. They don't necessarily tell you how much it'll cost you.
You have to ask. You can ask up front when you're negotiating an offer, the salary.
Yeah.
Say, thank you for this. I'm looking at the total package. Can you tell me what my monthly will be for this, this, and this? By the way, does your company have a 401k?
Yes.
So that one of the
do not offer.
Go ahead. They don't offer matching or anything.
No.
One of the simplest, easiest things you can do is just sign up for 1%. Have 1% of your income go in. You won't even notice it in your check, and you're going to start saving. So you're going to pay yourself first.
Okay.
And then in a couple of months or when you get the raise, you can bump that number up. It's a simple, easy way to do it without thinking.
Okay.
Now, getting back to your question, when you go for the job offer, that's when you have to ask, what does their benefit package look like? Because in most cases, you generally can't negotiate how much you're going to pay for medical with a larger company. This is what we offer. Mm-hmm. Because of your income, is your son available for state children's health insurance programs?
No.
All right. So Florida has a lower dollar amount limit, I guess.
I only have one child, so I don't qualify for anything.
Well, no, Chip, I know in Pennsylvania, I think it's like a $50,000 limit. Like if you make less than $50,000, I think that's the number, you get health insurance for your child. It's not Medicaid. Mm-hmm. It's specifically health care for kids. And every state's got different programs. So maybe Florida does not have anything like that.
Yeah, they cap out at 38.
30. See? So that little bit of income kind of.
Yep.
So actually, here's a question. It's probably based on total income, isn't it?
Yeah, it's based on your gross.
Okay. Sometimes you can lower your gross by putting money into a 401k. But this is going to be short term for you anyway, so it's probably not even worth pursuing. When you look at a new job, that's the conversation you have.
Okay. Up
front as part of your salary package and your salary negotiation.
Okay.
What do you think the chances of you getting a raise are?
I honestly think if I were to follow up consistently, I definitely think I would get it.
Okay. Then that in the short term, that sounds like a plan.
Nerves.
Yeah. What is the worst that's going to happen? They're going to say no, right?
Yes.
That's the worst. That they're not going to fire you, are they? Because you asked for a raise?
I hope not. I don't hope they go looking for cheaper labor.
I'm going to tell you, and see, this is what I think people think. If I'm running a business, I don't want cheaper labor. I want better labor. If I have people who work for me who do a great job, solve problems, and make my life easier, I am more than happy to pay them more and more money because they're taking away my nerves and my problems. And that's a mindset shift. Too often we think of it the other way. If you do work, and it sounds like you do great work, it's clear that you see problems and you fix them. That is worth a ton of money. You just need to make sure that you're telling your story because no one else is going to tell that story besides you. I saw these problems. I took on these projects. I fixed these things. I did this for you. I'm bringing in more revenue to the company or reducing costs. It's only fair that you share part of that with me and provide me with a raise. And if the company's not of that mindset, then you go find a company that is.
Yeah. So I definitely agree with that. I 100% agree with that. And to believe it or not, that's one of the things that kind of fuel me to want to do more of my own thing outside of the typical 9 to 5, is because again, we spend time helping someone else's business grow, but we don't do that for ourselves. Instead of, and I know it sounds good, and I don't always do it, but it's one thing to look for that type of employer or that type of work environment. And I often tell myself this: why keep looking for it? Why not create it myself? It sounds it's easy to say, but it's much harder for me to do. And one of the things that I don't want to do in the long run, is keep hopping from someone else's boat. I don't want to go from one job to this job to that job, not knowing the direction that captain is going. I want to get into my own boat and steer it in the direction that I want to go.
All right. So 2 things there. On job hopping, there is nothing wrong with job hopping and doing that if you are strategic and intentional in which jobs you're going to and for what purpose. So you may say to yourself, here is my goal. 20 years from now, I want to be here at work. What are the different skill sets and opportunities that I need in different jobs to get there? And so you may job hop for that purpose. So you're not just letting someone else steer the boat. You're intentionally jumping from boat to boat, knowing that this boat is taking you the direction you want to go. That's fine. And the other thing is, I want to create my own boat and do it myself. That's perfectly fine. It's hard to row a boat. Just understand that. It's difficult. Not that it can't be done, not that you can't do it, but it is a struggle. It takes work, and it's very rewarding. But you need to get into your boat and know, this is my boat. This is where it's going. This is how I'm going to get there. And sit down and be intentional and say, what is required? So if I want to jump out of this job and start a business, let's just say I need $50,000 a year to be able to make that jump. What does it take to get to $50,000? What does that number look like? How does that break down? What do I need to do a month, a week? Is this realistic? Can I do this? One of the best ways to do this is to sit in someone else's boat and paddle on the side, which is kind of what you're doing. You just need to do a little bit more paddling on the side.
Yes.
And so if you can do that, then you have the safety of that income to allow you to make mistakes and figure out and build your boat.
Yeah, learn from others' mistakes. Right?
Learn from others' mistakes. And as you're sitting at work every day, the question you should ask yourself is, hey, this problem just happened at work. Can I fix it? And can I sell it? Can I package it?
I like that.
And then who's going to want it? And so you're spending your day at work learning how to build your boat. And quite frankly, I mean, you might create a system to use at work that you can then duplicate yourself and offer to others.
Yes.
Clearly, you don't want to do it in a way that, proprietary information or something. But if you're creating systems and ways of doing things that are transferable knowledge-wise, then absolutely.
Yes. I like that.
So you've got to be, every day you need to be intentional about what you're doing, what direction you're going. You need to be balanced. It sounds like you've done a lot of those things. You've got to struggle. It's hard to raise a child. You've got time limits. Sit down and figure out, test out different ways. What's going to work best for me? And even if you fail a lot, it's okay, because every failure is, that didn't work. I'm one step closer to success.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
It's mindset shifts, the way you look at the issue.
Rocky, you're like a good old bottle of Windex, making everything clear.
And that is what the power of coaching is all about. Helping you find, I didn't give you any answers. Everything is already within you. You're just now able to see it.
Wow. So what I'm taking from this, and trust me, I've been writing notes this entire time, babysitting on the side. So if I am doing stuff at home, why not babysit for someone else and add money to that? Why not do things in my own name for now, as opposed to waiting to get the business started? Figure out a shutdown routine so I'm not spending as much time, doing frivolous things like TV and social media, and find things to replace that with. Complete the most important tasks first thing in the morning. That way I'm not stressing over it. And the 80-20 rule, run life at 80%. That way I have 20% left to do all the things that I want to do and things that pop up. And if I do the one client a month, have 2,500 with what I've already done in the past. That's an extra 30K a year. Just like you said, what am I going to do personally, professionally, and financially to get myself better? I've done that. Pay order, government comes first. I need to be next in line. Then those vendors that I use, and why not create a support group for myself that I need? Trust me, I'm getting it all, Rocky. I am getting it all.
You're a very smart person. You've got it together. I see that. It's clear.
That's the thing. It's just doing it. It's easy to map it out in your head, but to put it in place and to do it. And just like you said, one small step every day. And I'm actually reading a book by Dale Carnegie, which is How to Stop Worrying and Live Life. And I kid you not, I have barely touched the first chapter. And in the preface, it says, compartmentalize your day. Don't worry about tomorrow, next week. Just get through it in small steps. And I think that is the key to everything. It's just to do it one step at a time.
It is. It's one step at a time. The other thing that you need to know is, what's your why? Why are you doing this? Do you know? Why are you building this side business and spending all this time?
For me, in all honesty, I think I'm doing it because I do value my time. I think my time is worth so much more. I'm doing it because this is what I want to do. This is what I enjoy doing. I enjoy helping people. And to actually have someone come to me and say, hey, can you help me out with this problem? And for me to do it and help them out, I get satisfaction from that. Helping someone else. Making sure that they're okay, that they understand how they can help themselves after the fact. That's one of the things that I do. I don't just create something and give it to them. I teach them how to use it so that going forward, they're able to do what they need to do to help themselves in their business so that they don't have, it's not a crutch. A lot of people get these software systems, put it in place, and when it breaks down, they don't know how to fix it or do whatever they need to do to make it work. That's one of the things that I do. I create it. I teach them how to use it. And I say, that's one of the things that I do. I tell them, say, hey, break it. Do your best to break it. If they can break it, it's not done. I'm not done. If they can jam it up to where it's not functioning properly, I'm not done with my job. So that's one of the things that I do. I create something for someone that they need and make sure that it works for them. They understand how to use it and that it does not break. It serves the purpose that they need. And that's something that I enjoy. I enjoy my time with my family. And I think that is why I'm doing all of it. I want to help people. And I also want to enjoy my family. And to be honest, I don't think I've ever answered that question a day in my life. Why do I do what I do? Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Now you need to write that down. And every day you get up and say, what am I doing today and why am I doing it? and then go spend the first hour, conquer the mountain of the day. And from there, it's all downhill. Enjoy the rest of your day.
How do you make things so easy, Rocky? How?
How? 50,
Yes.
50 years of stupid mistakes. 50 years of trial and error. 50 years of screwing up.
And that's what the lesson is. You broke it. You messed up. How do you fix it?
Yes. And honestly, I read a ton. I'm constantly learning. So learn, apply, lean in, try, and you just keep going.
Rocky, you are awesome. You are awesome.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
This is why I do this, because I'm like, I bang my head against the wall to think, why didn't I know all this stuff 30 years ago? How different my life would have been. And so what I do is, by learning this and doing this, I'm teaching my kids as teenagers these exact same things. These are the conversations we're having with teenagers. Do you want to get married? Where do you want to live? What do you want to do? What does your day look like? What does your life look like? What kind of person will you marry that fits in with that life? So that I can teach my kids how to do this. And the only way I can do that is to constantly practice and walk the walk.
Yeah. Wow. And and that was my thing. It wasn't to, I wanted my son to not feel left out when I'm home and doing things. I just wanted him to not feel left out. I wanted him to be included. And I promise it didn't dawn on me that I'm teaching him something by doing that.
Your son doesn't listen to a thing you say. He listens to what you do. Model it.
Very, very true. Very true.
And make him step up and do things. There's no reason he can't help you with cooking, doing laundry, all those things that you do in life that take up your time. Start dumping them off on the kid. That gives you more space. My kids do their own laundry. I don't do their laundry. They've been doing it for years.
You know what? He does do that. He does do his own laundry and stuff. When he told me, Mommy, I can tell my colors. Okay, let's see if you can really tell your colors. Is this light or dark? Let's see if you can figure this out. Sort it. So yeah, I try to include him in things like that. But he can definitely step up and do more.
Absolutely. And in doing that, you're then giving him a head start so that he doesn't have to have this conversation at 31. He's ready to roll at 21.
Gotcha. Speaking of the devil, he just came to check on me. Wow. This is definitely eye-opening, Rocky. It definitely is. And I appreciate every word you have said today.
Well, thank you. Here's the good news. You're going to get to listen to it again.
Yay!
All right. I'm going to give you a piece of advice. You're going to hate your voice. Don't worry about it.
I know. I already do. I know. Oh, man. Wow. This is definitely amazing, Rocky. This is so amazing. So get the ball rolling.
Get the ball rolling. And again, we don't need to do massive stuff. Let's just take one little step. And over the next couple of weeks, you're going to figure out your routine, work on that. If you want, try 1% into the 401k. You barely notice it in your paycheck. You'd be like, oh. And when you get the raise, if you want to stay with the 401k, that's fine. If you want to have, there are companies out there, most of the big brokerage firms will actually automatically suck money out of your checking account on a given day. So you can just set it up that I get paid and the brokerage account takes $100 a month and it invests it in something for me. And I don't think about it. It just happens.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you've got your side business. You can be a little bit more focused and start working on that. And the question is, can I get one more sale?
Yeah. One more.
Just one more. And that's doable. And maybe it happens in a month. Maybe it happens in 3 months. Even if it happens in 6 months, even if you have 2 sales a year, that's $5,000. That's in line with your raise. So you get a double raise.
You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. And just and this is just me with my wheels are turning in my head. When we often look for more income, we tend to look at our employers for it. Why not ask for a raise? But how often do you come across people who need more income that they look to themselves to create it? Just out of curiosity.
If they're not entrepreneurs and if they're not of that mindset, which in that case, they're not even working for anyone to begin with, it's rare. You're actually very lucky because the people who say, I want to do something, spend years trying to figure out what to do. Their biggest holding block is they don't know what to do and how to get started. You've already got started. You already have the product. You've hurdled yourself over 90% of the problem that everyone else struggles with. How do I create a product? How do I know it's sellable? How do I sell it? Who do I sell it to? How do I package it? You've done all of that.
Wow. You never know what you overcome until you look back.
That's correct. Until you stop and turn around and say, where am I? And it's clear you're pretty high up the mountain. You're doing all the right things. And now you have a little clarity. That's what you asked for in the email to me, correct? Clarity.
Yeah.
By the way, do you know, very few people followed up from that.
Oh, wow. I honestly thought it'll be a slew of requests.
There were, but then you had the second step. Fill out this paperwork and send it back to me.
Wow. Wow.
People don't do. The fact that you do puts you way ahead.
That is amazing.
By the way, go back and fill out your cash flow statement. Understand where your money's going. And the reason I say that is you may have some eye-opening. I know that was one of your questions. Am I spending on my conveniences or the things I love? If you sit down and if you don't have it readily available over the next month, every time you spend money, just write down where it's going. And at the end of the month, sit down and say, did my money go where I wanted it to? Give every dollar a job and make sure it's going to do the job you want it to do. And at the end of the month, if you don't like where it's going, stop sending it there.
You know what's funny, Rocky? I kid you not. For the past 5 years, this whole automation thing that I'm telling you about, I did it for myself. I've been using it for 5 years. One of those things, and I noticed that it's not available on the market. We have all of these budgeting tools that can show you what you're doing for the month. I actually did it for the entire year. We all know when we're going to get paid. You know what your hourly rate is. Once you know what your income is going to be, that doesn't really change unless you get fired. You know what your regular bills are. And I can clearly see what bills I have if I'm going to be short. I see that months in advance. And I don't like where my money is going. I know that the money that I see that I can save on a yearly basis, I can save at least $7,500 a year. Do I save it? No. Why? And I think that kind of hurts me, seeing that I can save money here and there. I think, okay, well, I have this extra money. It's okay if I do this. It's okay if I do that. I have that little extra here. And that's what hurts. So just like you said, if I'm paying myself first, and if I'm taking it out of my paycheck, I don't see it. I won't see it and think of it as disposable income. I'll actually be saving it and treating it as a bill, just like you said.
Correct. And when you go to make a choice, you have to ask yourself a question. Do I want this, or do I want whatever it is, to something that you're saving for? Which at the end of the day, what we're saving for is to buy our time back, to have freedom, to have abundance. And so that's your question. Do I want this little thing now, or do I want greater freedom and abundance, or whatever is your why in the future?
Mm-hmm.
So make it an if. It's not just should I buy this or shouldn't I buy this, because then it's easy. Yeah, I'm buying it.
Yep.
So you need to give yourself the other half of the equation. Should I buy this, or should I save it so that I can have more freedom, abundance, whatever that why is for you?
Wow. Wow.
So figure out what that is. And every time you go to spend money, then ask yourself that question.
You're absolutely right, Rocky. Absolutely right.
And you've already done the work. You have the numbers. You just got to go sit and look at them. Go through the things and figure out what's the top thing that you are wasting money on that you don't enjoy. And the next time that conversation comes up, you have the conversation in your head. This is nice, but I want this instead.
Yes. Yep. You are absolutely right.
And if you know that conversation ahead of time, in that moment when we're tired and we've struggled all day, we already know the script to use. We don't have to think about, why am I buying this? Why should I not buying this? I'm tired. No, I already wrote the script. I know what I'm going to say, and I know how I'm going to get through that moment.
Rocky, I appreciate you so much. You are definitely great at what you do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before we close out today, is there anything else you'd like to chat about?
Yes. Is there anything that you see about my financial situation or anything that we've discussed about today that you see that I am not addressing? Do you see something that I can improve on?
The biggest thing that I see is you have to create that margin, meaning you've got to get the difference between how much you earn and how much you spend to be larger. And there are two ways to do that. One is to cut spending. The other is to increase income. And we've talked about both of those. You just have to go out and do it. But you've got to create that margin, because life is going to throw you a curveball and something's going to happen. It's life. And if you don't have the margin for that moment, then you have major problems. Create the emergency fund, have the margin, have the ability when the car breaks down. The car breaks down. This sucks, but it didn't ruin my life.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Increase the margin. Definitely. Okay.
So you've got two ways of doing that. You're working on both of them. Now it's just a matter of doing it. Just the hard part.
Yes. And nobody can do it but me. So
That's correct.
Rocky, thank you so much. And I definitely hope that this podcast can help someone else that's in the same situation or a similar one. And I greatly, greatly appreciate it. And I hope at least one person can learn something from it.
I am sure that there are a lot of people who are going to be able to learn from this. So thank you for being willing to share and to be open and to share your story, because you're helping other people who are in similar situations look at things differently and change their mindsets. And hopefully they will take a step forward themselves.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rocky. Greatly appreciate it. I am definitely a listener, so I look forward to doing the work.
Thanks for listening. I truly appreciate it.
All right, my dear. You enjoy your day.
We just listened to another coaching session and experienced the power of coaching and how one call can shift your life. When you are ready, I am here. Jocelyn has all the pieces together and is very far along on her journey, but she needed a little clarity to see the next steps. Thanks for listening. Have a great week.